After a brilliant set of Boxing Day results for Arsenal, we needed a win versus Ipswich to keep pace with Liverpool. A win is what we got, but a pretty stale performance. That is what I'm going to be reviewing on today's Match Review podcast. Let's get into it. Yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage. Today, as you heard at the top, is a match review of Arsenal 1, Ipswich 0. We played that out on the 27th of December, so we didn't get to play on Boxing Day, but we did get to see lots of results go our way, including a Chelsea loss, which, that was really, really important, and I'm sure we all enjoyed. Manchester United and Tottenham losing as well. Arsenal versus Ipswich really should be, we're looking at this, especially a home game, we should be looking at this as a comfortable win. And whilst it was comfortable last night, I wouldn't say it was impressive. And I think Mikel Arteta summed it up in his press conference. He spoke about, actually, these games are tough. They're tough to win. There's lots of, he called it lots of distractions, but that obviously I think he means Christmas. There are a lot of different games going on as well. The frequency with which we play. We're one of the lucky ones, actually. We played on the 27th. It was basically one of our longest rest periods for a long time, actually. I think we had 6 days off between the Palace game and the Ipswich game, which is remarkable that is a long period of time off this season. But that's how it is now. So we actually got lucky, and I was hoping that time off would see us be a little bit more energetic and free than we actually were. And of course, it is a match review podcast. So before we do anything about the match, let's go through the lineup. And it was much as I expected at the back. Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel and Miles Lewis-Skelly. Delighted that Miles Lewis-Skelly kept his place. And, let's quickly talk about him. He got a player of the match performance. I mean, he was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So composed and calm on the ball. Fields the ball really, really well. He's press resistant as anything. And we have so many left backs at this club, but I think we can all see that him and Calafiori are going to become those first team choices very, very soon. And a player like Zinchenko is probably looking at it and going, well, I don't really have another position that Arteta likes me in. So I might be in trouble. Someone like Kivior, he might be thinking, okay, well, I'm going to play more as a centre-back now because these guys have got that position on lock. But Zinchenko must be looking at Miles Lewis-Skelly's performance and worrying, I would say. In the midfield, this is the midfield I really, really wanted, and I think it did pay dividends in the end, if not only just. So Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice and Kai Havertz. We saw Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard play in midfield with Gabriel Jesus up front in the Palace game, and we scored a lot of goals because of that formation. We were run through a lot in the Palace game, though, and Declan Rice was... he was not available for that game, unfortunately. Well, I say not available. He obviously came off the bench, which was useful for us. But I felt we really needed him at the 6 in that game because, we were too easy to get through against Crystal Palace. And so this is exactly what I wanted to see. Martin Odegaard and Kai Havertz there with Declan Rice in position behind them. And I'm just looking at some of Declan Rice's stats here. He really did do a good job, not just defensively. He got 2 successful tackles out of 3 attempted, 6 ball recoveries. I mean, that's wild, isn't it? 6 ball recoveries, and a couple of interceptions and block passes. But he actually managed to kind of get on the ball and progress the ball quite nicely. He actually had 2 progressive passes, 2 shots, and he made 93.8% of his passes. So a really good performance from him as well. And I enjoyed having him there in the 6. That's where I see him long term, and that's where I want to see him play behind Odegaard and Havertz. Okay, so coming on to the forward line. This, again, it's what I wanted to see, but I don't think they had particularly good games at all. Which is worrying because this is the first game we had without Bukayo Saka, right? So Gabriel Martinelli lined up on the right, and Gabriel Jesus and Leandro Trossard played through the middle and off the left, respectively. Now, I don't think in any world you can drop Gabriel Jesus after the week he just had. You just can't, right? He's had a fantastic week, and I wanted him to play there. not just to get Kai in midfield and create like a second striker coming from midfield, but because he'd been good. And I don't think he lived up to that in this game, but he has enough credit in the bank with me for him to potentially get another start against Brentford. Brentford's one of those teams, especially away from home, where maybe you don't play this lineup and you play Rice Marino midfield instead for a bit more security. However, that he was there last night and he did okay. He got up and down, made some, put some serious work in, but not what we needed. Gabriel Martinelli as well, I think that was a real disappointing performance from him. He did not live up to the cameos we've seen of him at right wing, and I do feel for him a little bit because Ipswich were in a very low block. They created 0.1 XG in this game, so not much ambition at all. Another one of those games, similarly to Fulham, similarly to Everton, where either the team didn't want to play against us or we didn't let them. It's tough to tell sometimes. They did not have much and they were very deep, and therefore I did feel for Martinelli a touch because that's not his game. He needs space, and he's not getting space this season. And that is an issue, I think. If you're going to have a player in your team who thrives in space, who thrives in kind of exploiting fullbacks with your own pace, it's very difficult to play in a team like ours where we have so much field tilt, so much domination, so much possession that the other team aren't really capable of giving us space because they're not showing the ambition to attack, they're not getting forward, and we're not allowing them forward. So I felt for him, but it was not a good night for him. It was a good night for Leandro Trossard, though. A couple of really bright moments, including an assist for our goal, and that is where I am going to start today's review, okay, with the Kai Havertz goal. It probably is the only moment of quality in the game, right? Which is a real shame because I think we were all looking forward to our game, having watched all the Boxing Day games, and yeah, we only really got this moment of quality. So let's get into it. I mean, a cross comes in from the right-hand side from Martinelli, and it's contested and kind of ends all the way up with Leandro Trossard. That's one thing I really wanted us to do a bit more of, by the way. When these teams are in a deep block, I think we are hesitant to cross because that can lead to a transition or a counter. So we're much keener to kind of work it to the byline and cut it back. But actually, sometimes these teams are so deep, it's almost impossible to work it into the byline. So just whip a few crosses in there. And I actually think this goal came from maybe 2 or 3 repeated and recycled crosses. That's one thing we're really good at. Okay, so if we put the ball in and we don't win it, we are incredibly good with people like Kai Havertz, people like Declan Rice, and Ødegaard, to be fair to him, at just going for the ball very, very quickly, charging it down, and sometimes not recovering it, but delaying the other team enough to get back into our shape and deal with whatever they're coming away with, and stopping counter-attack. So I do think we need to recognise, actually, we've got that much ball recovery talent, especially with Declan Rice in the midfield, that we should put more crosses in. But yeah, this goal comes from a couple of crosses repeated, and Leandro Trossard ends up with the ball on the left-hand side, stands up the defender, and really he drops a shoulder and goes, and it's a good burst of pace from Trossard, one that we're probably not used to seeing, actually. And then he provides a really good cross. It's awkward for the defenders. It's awkward for the goalkeeper as well, whether he comes or doesn't come. And actually, it just ends up with Kai Havertz. Now, I thought he might have missed it when I first watched it, but he just managed to kind of contort his body into a way to get clean contact on it. And that's good for me, right? He is doing what he needs to do. He is starting to make a real habit of scoring tap-ins. I'm thinking the one in the Champions League where Saka was on his hat-trick. I can't remember the game now. That's poor of me. I'm thinking the Crystal Palace game. He's starting just to score these goals in the 6-yard box. And that's why I really, really want him in this team, especially from midfield, because he can arrive late into those spots inside the width of the goal and just score these tap-ins. It's not actually a great finish from him. He has to contort his body. He's just trying to get contact on it. And once he does, he is in such a good position that actually, even though it's kind of going back towards the keeper, there's no chance. And I think we need to do a lot more of this. if we're going to replace Bukayo Saka and his output, do we do it with a new player? Well, I've discussed that on, the Christmas Day bonus episode. There's a couple of ways of doing that. Do we do it with the players we've already got? I mean, Gabriel Martinelli, it's one game. He didn't play great, but I'll forgive him because it was a very low block. Jesus could play out there potentially. Or do we just do it with numbers in the box? Is that how we do it? And we say, okay, we don't have our star player, so we're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of control because we are pushing to replace his output, by having Kai Havertz and Jesus on the pitch at the same time, having Trossard on there, having Martinelli on there, having 5 attackers, I guess, is the point. Ødegaard plus 4. However you want to make those 4 up, although I don't think we really have too many options. Wanyeri might come in, but that's about it. So the Kai Havertz goal, I think, is again, similar to my Palace review. It's numbers. It's numbers in the box. It's numbers in difficult areas to defend. And let's do that more. I like goals that are simple. And this was as simple as it gets. Drop your shoulder, beat your man, put a cross in, and just get a contact on it. That is how it was done. And, fair play to Kai Havertz. He scored the winner last night. And I'm really, really pleased for him. If you've listened to more than one episode of this podcast, you know that I absolutely love Kai Havertz. And I've said it a couple of times. Be careful what you wish for when you're asking for a new number 9. Because Kai Havertz, he might not have 30, 40 goals in a season, but he has a decent goal and assist output. I think in the last 365 days, he's got like a goal or an assist more than every other game, which is okay for a player who has done some of his work in midfield, who is asked to do so much pressing, so much kind of utility stuff to bring our wingers into play. I think that's an okay return. And like I say, he brings so much extra, the pressing, the tactical ability. One point yesterday, we just went long to him and he just cushioned the ball brilliantly with his head to Martinelli, who flicked it back to him, and suddenly we were 70 yards up the pitch from 2 touches, and Kai Havertz allowed us to do that. So be careful what you wish for, because these goals, these tapping goals, they're really, really positive, and I think that's going to be a big bit of how we kind of move this team forward, is coming up with points like that, especially against low blocks. I mean, that was really how the first half carried on, right? Ipswich did not create anything, really. I think for a long period of time, Saliba had more passes than Ipswich did, until they had their kind of little resurgence in the second half. We had moments where we thought they might get away, but I thought our recovery running on the night was absolutely brilliant, right? Every time we lost the ball, and let's actually call this out right now, there were some sloppy passes last night. I don't think we looked on it, right? We didn't look sharp. We didn't look quite right. And I don't know if that's just the Christmas effect. I don't know if that's the number of games we've played or nerves of playing without Bukayo Saka. I really don't know. But even Martin Ødegaard was misplacing quite a few simple passes, having quite a few dodgy touches. And I just thought, I don't like this. This doesn't look as neat as usual. However, to give them their due, whenever we had a bad touch or a bad pass, we recovered the ball so fast, and I genuinely think our really high possession stats last night were less to do with our quality on the ball, but far more to do with how we quickly recovered the ball. Ipswich couldn't get any control, none at all, and I thought that was really impressive for a performance which underwhelmed in quality in the final third, and underwhelmed in terms of passing quality, pace of passing, accuracy of passing. I think our recovery running stood out as, okay, we've done really well there. We've not allowed Ipswich a sniff at anything, really. The only times they did get a loose sniff, and I really do say loose because I don't think they actually got a shot off on either occasion, is at the start of the first half and the start of the second half. I mean, it was really strange. A long ball, contested, and then a poor Saliba Poor Saliba pass. Well done, Mark. Gave the ball away, and they managed to put a cross in. Timber gets a vital touch to push it away from Sami Smodic, but I think Raya's in a bit of no man's land after the touch, unfortunately. And it turns out that didn't end up being threatening, didn't end up being a problem because they couldn't get shot away. But it was a bit of a 20 seconds in, we've given the ball away and they've put a cross in, and it was a bit like, ooh, don't like that. And then at the start of the second half, we had kickoff this time. we went back to David Raya, as we always do. The team run down one side of the pitch, as so many Premier League teams do. And rather than going long, he put this shaky pass into the area that Saliba and Timber were in. Not really clear who it was to. They were both starting to progress up the pitch because they could see Raya was coming to kick it. And we turned the ball over from that point. Now, Saliba ran really well with his man and kind of pushed him away from the goal. Did a really good job there. Actually didn't dive in. Didn't think, I must get this ball. But actually just steered him away from danger. Then recovered the scenario. But two sloppy moments. I think we're seeing this too much at the moment. We need to start halves better. And that lack of passing quality was really felt in those two moments. Okay, got to go for a little break now. When I come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Bukayo Saka and a little bit about that Gabriel Magalhaes chance. Hello, I just want to interrupt this match review podcast really, really quickly and say a massive thank you to listening to this episode and indeed any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered that you've listened to this year. It's the 28th of December at the time of recording, so this is my last recording. I've already recorded the New Year's Eve episode, so I really just want to say thank you for any support that you've given either here or on Blue Sky. It has been really, really lovely to hear people's comments and see people, listening to the podcast and enjoying the podcast. On that note, if you are enjoying it at all, please consider going and hitting follow wherever you get your podcasts from. Any provider, hit follow at Arsenal Unfiltered and you will get 3 free episodes every single week. 2 match reviews if we've got 2 games and 1 episode of the Arsenal Roundup, which is my news show where we cover everything Arsenal, press conferences, injuries, transfers, anything like that. Any news relating to the Arsenal, we will cover it in the Arsenal Roundup. So yeah, go and hit follow wherever you get your podcasts from and you will get 3 episodes completely free straight to your device. Thank you very much for listening. Yes, welcome back. So, we've talked a little bit about the first half and the start of the second half, how we kept giving the ball away at the start of the second half. And, I'm just going to check my notes here because I remember Ipswich having a little bit of a moment, really. On 57th minute, I've noted down a period of Ipswich pressure. They had a couple of deliveries and ropey moments from us. Need to get control back. And I said to my fiance who was watching with me, you won't play a Premier League game, even against an opponent like Ipswich. You won't get a Premier League game where they don't even get, some element of time in your half, some element of territory, something like that. But we still restricted them to 0.1 XG in this game. They really had very, very few shots. I don't have the shot counter in front of me, unfortunately. But they did not get involved too much at all, really, in an attacking sense. And I would say, whilst this was a poor game in terms of our quality, in front of goal and our quality in the final third, what we did see is real control. I've already spoken about the recovery running and just the way that we managed the game. We managed it really, really well. I don't know if that was a direct choice. I really don't. But I think there is a world where actually we get an early-ish goal in the 22nd minute and we say, well, they're not offering anything. So let's shut up shop here. Let's just keep control. We'll try and get a second if we can. But actually, we don't need to risk anything too much. That feels like a very Mikel Arteta thing to do. And of course, our best chance to get the second goal came from Gabriel Magalhaes, and I really don't know how he's missed this. It's one of those freak moments, and I think he will probably have gone to bed last night with this playing over and over in his head. It's a fantastic ball in from Declan Rice. Gabriel has done his thing where the player is standing him up and trying to stop his run, but they had no hope of stopping that man. He is a beast when he gets running. He ducks round the right-hand side of the defender and comes flying onto the ball, and he is basically free on the edge of the 6-yard box, or just inside the 6-yard box maybe. And he misses. He actually heads it down into the ground and wide, so it was tough to see from the angles that I got whether it had gone over the bar as well. If it had been within the frame of the goal, would it have gone over? Or did he just miss it wide? It was not a great finish at all. But I think one thing we've got to remember is those headed chances are actually really difficult. They're low XG, so even from there, he is trying to connect with a ball that is coming in at pace, whipping and dipping and doing all this sort of stuff. He's got almost too good a contact on it, I would say. He's headed it down to make it difficult for the keeper. And in heading it down, I don't think he's prioritised the accuracy, or maybe just the ball was not quite right for him. I don't know, but it felt like a massive chance missed. And in my notes, I have literally written, how has he missed? It was huge, and really that would have changed the complexion of the game, because I think at 2-0, we all would have enjoyed that final half an hour a lot more. It came on the 62nd minute, like I said, so, we would have enjoyed that final half an hour a little bit more, and this game would probably feel a little bit better, I guess, as well. We created 1.8 XG, that would have been a big chunk of it. The Kai Havertz goal would have also been a big chunk of it. Another way we created good chances for ourselves, and I thought this was interesting, maybe something we take into games against low blocks. Again, we had 3 scenarios, one Yuri and Timber in the first half, one from Martin Odegaard, and one from Declan Rice, where a player who was behind the ball, so one of those guys, picked the ball up and, were faced with a low block and our players trying to find space in a very congested environment. And what we did, instead of looking around and being quite slow and lethargic, is we just ran straight through them. And I thought it was really interesting how Ipswich were so ineffective at stopping this. We did it 3 times, and 3 times we got the same result of just striding through those players. Rice and Timber, they are kind of knock the ball and take big long strides and use their body to defend the ball, whereas Odegaard was taking lots and lots of little touches. Either way, we were just cutting through them with these direct runs at the goal with ball at feet and just hitting a shot. Now, I believe Odegaard's got blocked, Timber's got saved. I can't remember what happened to the Rice one, but basically what we did is, where they were setting up to deny us passing lanes and deny us angles into the box, and angles to our effective attacking players, we just said, okay, well, we're just going to run straight through the middle. And they didn't know what to do, because they had thought all about how do we stop the passing lanes. And I'd like to see us do that a little bit more, actually, because we just ran at them and got really good opportunities, chances to get pot shots off. And we've seen from recent games, actually, just have a shot and, maybe Martinelli will be in there or Jesus will be in there to turn it in. That can happen, and that's a thing we need to do a little bit more of. So I like that. I like that a lot. I thought Mikel Merino, when he came on, he really gave us a little bit extra. And I don't think it was necessarily that the lineup that Arteta picked was wrong, but suddenly there was just a different plan on the pitch. And that's one thing I think we've got to get into and get used to as Arsenal fans, is we have a number of ways of playing now in terms of the lineup. We can play Merino in that left 8. We can play Havertz in that left 8. We can play Thomas Partey in 6 and Declan Rice in the left 8. And then we can mix up our attacking players however we really want, because they are all so fluid. Jesus can play all 3 lines. So actually what we've got to get used to is, even if we think we've got a lineup that has worked in previous games and might work in this game like we had yesterday, actually Mikel Merino can come on if it's not working and just offer something different. I thought he played well. And the final thing I want to discuss before coming on to the Saka discussion is that brilliant Declan Rice chance from Martin Odegaard corner. I mean, what a volley that is. It's a fantastic driven corner from Odegaard. And Rice hits a fantastic volley, but it is blocked by Ipswich. That would have been one of our goals of the year, I think. It was a fantastic volleyed attempt and a great idea as well. We had some more chances. Kai Havertz had a chance. Mikel Merino had a little shot. But, I've kind of had to go through this game and try and pick out a few things to discuss. The running at the Ipswich, the chances that we give up at the start of halves. Ultimately, I think this was a pretty dry game, and we had one moment of quality, like I said, and that told the difference. And actually, I don't think we can't turn our noses up at it, right? I was disappointed with the performance. I think we should have shown more quality. We don't have Bukayo Saka, and that's a big thing, of course, in terms of showing quality if you don't have your star player. But actually, we've seen too many times this year Arsenal play really, really well and get a draw. I'm thinking Brighton. I'm thinking Manchester City. I'm thinking Fulham to an extent. I won't put Everton in there. I don't think we were particularly good against Everton. Yesterday we played pretty averagely, pretty poorly, you might say, but we did have our one moment of quality against a low block that got us over the line. We can't complain at that. That is 3 points in a difficult period of the year. It very much feels like a right on to the next one kind of vibe, because I'm happy about this result. I really am. We have won against a very low block on a day where it really didn't look like it was clicking for us. We've got to do this sort of result more. Liverpool have done this result all season long. You know, you're looking at them and you're going, well, they're not playing great in that game. Their defence doesn't look, fantastic. They're not showing the level of dominance Arsenal show. Bang, they get goals, they get a result. The one I'm really thinking of is the Southampton game for Liverpool, where they won 3-2, and actually they were poor, I would say, in that game. Gave up some easy chances to Southampton, who obviously capitalised on that. Southampton then gave them goals back, and they didn't think twice. They capitalised on it, they got a result, and they moved on, and they didn't let it derail them in any way. We need more of these results. So yesterday was uninspiring. I really had to search for things to analyse, and it was a tough one to analyse because Ipswich didn't offer much, and we didn't offer much quality. But I think what you can say as a summing up thoughts are there are a couple of signs of things we might be able to do against these low blocks. For example, Havertz in midfield and arriving late in the box, or just running at them. But ultimately we missed a couple of chances at corners to make it comfortable, and we didn't convert any of the low XG chances that we had. So we are lucky we got the one goal and we got through. We were far better off the ball yesterday than we were on it, and that does need to change. But we leaned on our defence and our midfield as well to get a result. Now, quickly, just before I finish here, I think it makes sense to talk about Bukayo Saka a little bit. After the game, we heard Mikel Arteta talk to us about how Bukayo Saka has undergone surgery now, and he said it will, his timeout will his timeout and recovery will depend on how he recovers from the scar tissue of his surgery. So, surgeries will cause a little bit of tension in the muscle, and he will need to be very careful managing that. So we hope that he obviously does have a good result in terms of how well that recovers. But having gone under the knife, that means we aren't having any miracle turnarounds anytime soon. We really need to get ready for, at minimum, I think, 8, 10, maybe even 12 weeks without Bukayo Saka, which is something we have not faced in his whole time in the Arsenal first team. We have had a couple of Premier League games missed. His longest injury was actually over an international break earlier this season, also a hamstring problem. So I think we really need to get a way of playing without him that is really, really effective. Martinelli on the right might work if teams are coming to play us, and I think maybe Brentford will be a team that come and play us, and I think I'd like to see us stick with that on, when is it, New Year's Day. But we need a way to play, or a player to replace Bukayo Saka when we're in a deep block, and I do feel that might have to be a new signing, especially with Raheem Sterling's injury. We got positive news about that yesterday, but he just got to a point where we might have had some contributions from him, like we saw in the Crystal Palace Cup game, and he gets injured, and now he's going to have to get back to sharpness. He'll have missed 2, 3, 4 weeks of training by that point. I really worry about his season. I think he is basically done. And also, if we've got the opportunity to sign someone in the January transfer window, we should do that. Because Raheem Sterling is not a permanent member of this squad. So actually, let's just forget him. Okay, he's not offering anything. Let's just say, okay, you sit there and train, like whatever. If we can't send him back to Chelsea, let's go and get a Semenyo, let's go and get a Cunha, and let them take Raheem Sterling's spot in the squad for me, because we will need someone who can play on the right or take minutes off the guys on the left, maybe, so they can have a shift out on the right, to replace Saka. I think that's how I look at it. You look internally first, absolutely, and I do think we've got good options. Jesus and Martinelli being the prime two, who can play off the right. But for me, we need an additional attacker anyway. Even if Bukayo Saka hadn't been injured, we need to fill that spot that Raheem Sterling is currently filling, both permanently and with more quality. So I really hope we do go in for someone in January. And it's really disappointing that Bukayo Saka has had to go under the knife. Our first game without him was not a thriller, not exactly what we wanted, but we got the job done. And I think we'll have to have different models against different teams. If we think they're going to play a low block, maybe we get Trossard out there and or Wanyeri even. But if we think they're going to try and play against us, I do think Martinelli is the option. That's 30 minutes. I'm going to call it there. A slightly shorter match review today. I've got a lot of family stuff going on, so I need to be present for that. This is my last recording of 2024, so a massive thank you for any support you've given over this year. Bit of housekeeping. I will be away for the Brentford game, so I'll probably watch it and cover it on Blue Sky, but there won't be a very, very quick match review. And we'll pick it back up with the Brighton game in early January as well, and I will reference the Brentford game at that point. Maybe do a double match review on the same podcast. And keep an eye out on New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve, episode 3 of the Arsenal Roundup, but a 2024 year review is coming out all together, all in one, where we talk about moment of the year, game of the year, player of the year for 2024. And kind of just look back on some of the things that we enjoyed in 2024, some of the performances we enjoyed. But that is Arsenal 1, Ipswich 0. Let's hope for a better performance, or a better attacking performance, let's say, because we were very good defensively. A better attacking performance against Brentford on New Year's Day. We are going to need it. They are a far better team than Ipswich are. And we need to be really, really ready for their imperious home form. So let's hope we have a really, really good performance and we don't feel that absence of Bukayo Saka for any longer than we need to. But yeah, thank you very much for following. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.